Welcome to Ladies Kicking Ass. I'm your host, Tanya Wilson, and I'm crazy passionate about encouraging women to tell their hard-earned stories, provide coaching and creative ideas to help you build the service business of your dreams. What's different about this podcast? Well, we are real, and that means most of us are trying to juggle all the things. Being an entrepreneur, mama, wife, sister, friend, doggy mama, and all those other titles that we love. This life is a dance, and we celebrate every twist, step, and dip along the way. This show chats about our wins, our losses, business, relationships, family, and how to get the hell out of our own way and believe in ourselves and our big ideas. The Ladies Kickin' Ass community is full of strong, generous women who support, mentor, and cheer for each other. So, come on, let's get inspired and learn something new today. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. Hi, ladies. Today we have an incredible interview with an amazing woman who is blazing trails in a very non-traditional industry, and I cannot wait to tell her story today. So make sure that you're cozy and you can sit in for this one. It is a little bit longer, but it is an incredible conversation about overcoming adversities and understanding that there is truly riches in all the niches. Today's guest is in a very interesting niche market, and I can't wait for her to tell you her story. Our guest today is Amber Barrios, and she is the owner of ACT Educate, which stands for Associated Compliance and Training. ACT is an organization that was built on the principle of solving problems and helping those working in the fire sprinkler industry to stay in compliance with licensing requirements, as well as to provide training through their apprenticeship program, continuing education courses, and safety. She's a fellow Wyoming gal, a mom of a 21-year-old daughter and 19-year-old son, wifey to her hubby for a whole 23 whopping years. That's impressive. And happens to be one of my favorite cousins. I can't wait to hear all about her business and life today. So Amber, welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on here today. We've been planning this for a long time.
Yes, way too long of a time. So Amber and I grew up together in a little town called Star Valley, Wyoming. And I mean, construction was pretty much an affluent business in the area where we grew up at. I am so proud of her for going out on her own and starting her own business this past year. And she is kicking ass and taking names, and it is just fantastic. I love to hear her story and her successes. So first off, I just want you to tell us all about yourself and your story. Like, what is your why behind what you do every day?
So like you said, I grew up in Star Valley, Wyoming, a very small town. And, we kind of grew up in a situation where women were not taught to be entrepreneurs and whatnot. And so that's kind of always been a drive of mine to want to run my own business. About 15 years ago, I got into the fire sprinkler industry by accident, actually. And I figured out it was an industry that really worked well with me, and I worked well with it. I got the opportunity to learn so many different facets of the industry. And in the years that I've been in the industry, I have done pretty much every position except for designing the systems. So I've got well-rounded experience. And in California, a few years ago, we had a regulation pass that requires that everyone working in the industry has to have a specific certification. Part of getting that certification is an apprenticeship training program, which in California, there was limited resources for that. I did teach programs privately for a couple of large contractors in the state. And one of the things that I always found interesting was that no one was trying to help the Spanish speaking population. And I love teaching fitters. I think that fitters are so important because they are the face of your company. And that's just kind of been my why, is making sure that the fitters have a resource for help with staying in compliance if they work for a company that's not helping them with that, and also being able to provide an apprenticeship training program and continuing education courses in a language that they understand and making those easily accessible to them.
We were talking about prior to hitting record on this podcast today about what the population looks like as far as like English and Spanish speaking in California for the fitters. What was that?
In Southern California, I would say probably about 70% of those working in the industry are Spanish speaking. Some of them speak both Spanish and English, but I would say it's about 70%.
Which is a huge demographic that is being left behind, truly, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And do they have to hold their own certifications in order to work for these companies, or is it the company responsible for it, or what?
It's actually the individual fitter that's responsible. So the companies are not responsible to maintain those licenses for the fitters. It's just like maintaining a driver's license. Each individual is responsible for that. And part of that requirement is every 3 years, they have to complete 30 hours of continuing education credits. But those credits have to be done through a CAL FIRE approved provider, which there's a list available. We are a CAL FIRE approved provider. We do both online classes as well as live classes, private classes, and we do courses in both English and Spanish. And as of recently, I believe we are only one of 2 providers doing anything in Spanish. So, which again, when you have an industry that is predominantly Spanish speaking, that's kind of amazing to me that more people aren't trying to offer it in Spanish.
Sure. And we were also talking about, before we hit record on this, about, we should have just recorded the whole thing.
Right.
We were talking about like, there's like union, non-union, and then kind of the people in between all of this stuff. Explain to us how that works.
Yeah. So in the state of California, there was 2 options. Previously, there were 2 options for apprenticeship. You could either go through the local union, or you could go through another private organization that you have to have a high school diploma, you have to pass an entrance exam, you have to speak English and things like that. So some of the restrictions that are in place for those 2 programs, although they are good programs, didn't necessarily work for everyone in the industry. And so for me, I was like, hey, well, let's offer a third option. And so that's where we came in with our apprenticeship program. Our program is 100% online. So all of their coursework is done online through our LMS system, our learning management system. So we log every single hour that they're taking classes. We have homework assignments that they turn in electronically. So it's just like being in a classroom, but they get to do it on their own time frame. So, and it's not taking them away from work to take those classes. If they want to spend 20 minutes a day doing it on their lunch break, they can do that. And then they just have a certain amount of courses that they have to complete.
So where did that put you in the market position of doing this? What was your launch date for this business?
We officially launched actually January of 2021. Our apprenticeship program, we got approved in July of 2021. And we enrolled our first apprentice in October of 2021.
Yeah, that's a fast turnaround.
Yeah, so we're actually we're doing really great. I mean, I'm excited to say that I constantly get phone calls of more companies interested, wanting to enroll more and more apprentices, and so we're really super excited. The great thing about doing this online is I'm not restricted by I don't have enough instructors or anything like that. We build the courses. The courses are available. Once you enroll, we make those courses available to you at a set time, and you go in and complete them. So we aren't restricted by those other things that the traditional programs are.
Fascinating. I was having this conversation with my daughter, and we were talking about what school's going to look like for them. Even if it's something like, I know you said that one of those was like, you have to have a high school diploma in order to do that. And she's talking about like, she started her own little business, and she's not, it's little right now, but I'm sure it'll take off. And she's talking about, like she tells her friends all the time, she's like, I'm not going to college. I'm just going to I'm starting my business now. By the time I go to college, I'm not going to have time for that, and the traditional sense, which of course she's grown up with an entrepreneurial mother that's like, just go do the damn thing.
Right.
I went to college and nothing I learned there helps me today.
I went to college and didn't finish. So
which is a lot of people's story, but the marketing classes of 2000, that marketing has completely changed since then,
Oh, drastically. Yeah.
and we're all still paying for it. So there's all that in there too. So I've been very frank with my kids and like, learn a skill, have a passion for something, learn a skill, find an opportunity, like Mike Rowe talks about all the time. Like, following your passion is bullshit for a lot of people, because my passion is, you hear that word like underwater basket weaving is my passion. And people are like, how that, like that's an extreme example of that. But, people are like, my passion is traveling, so I'm going to become a blogger. Well, how many people actually make a lot of money off of that? Kudos to the ones that figure it out. And it can be figured out. But a lot of people just want to do the traveling and forget about all the work that it takes to actually make money off of blogging.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, have a passion for something. You want to make a change somewhere. You want to fill a gap somewhere. You want something in the market that isn't there, so you fill that gap. It sounds like your business is like that. What was that gap? Was it strictly just the Spanish speaking thing, or was it more the availability to do that class whenever they had time to do it?
It was both. It was the availability. It was the fact that I've taught fitters for years, and I understand they don't learn in the traditional way that others do. A lot of these guys are in this industry because college wasn't a choice for them. They're not. I constantly use the situation. I had an apprentice at a company that I used to work for. If I asked him the question on a test, he could answer it as long as I just asked him. But if I handed him the iPad and said, "Here, take the test," he couldn't do it. And I find that there's a lot of people like that just don't test well, and they freak out and they think it's a bigger deal than what it actually is. And so for me, it was not only filling the gap of the Spanish speaking, making sure that this was available to everyone. It was also working with these companies and making sure they understood what was required, the compliance side of it, making it openly available whenever these guys want to take it, and teaching to the way these guys learn. My husband works in the industry as well now. I've been in it for about 15 years. He's been doing it for about 5. During the recession, he went from doing residential construction to working in sprinklers just to get a paycheck at the time. But understanding the way that adults learn is such a key to teaching adults. We're not kids anymore. We're not in high school. We don't sit in this classroom and learn all day long. It's very difficult to teach adults. And I always use my OSHA class as an example. I love teaching OSHA to sprinkler fitters because it's the trade that I know, and I make it relatable. And most of the guys that take my class, when they first come in there and sit down in the morning, they're like, "Oh, I have to sit through 10 hours of safety." But within an hour, they realize this isn't that bad. We're going to talk about what you do and how to make your job every day safer. And if one guy walks out of that class and looks at his job slightly different the next day, I've done what I needed to do. And I always give all of my students my cell phone number. I tell them, you see anything that you're like, "Oh, Amber would like a picture of this, she could put it in her presentation, send it to me." In the beginning of my OSHA class, I do a lot of pictures that I've taken on job sites or that guys have sent to me. And most of them are pictures that people have sent, former students have sent to me, because OSHA is all about hazard awareness. And to me, it's like, I get so happy when they send me those pictures, because I'm like, they learned something. But that's a big win when you're teaching adults, is feeling like they walked out of your class and they learned something. And, even with these online classes, teaching online obviously is a little bit different. But we have built these classes to be easily understandable in a vocabulary that's not so difficult that they're going to have to sit there and Google, what does a word mean? You know what I mean? We've just made it simple to understand. And yes, there are tests because it's a class. You still have to take a test. But we do allow them to retake them as many times as they need. We don't charge any fees to retake those courses or anything like that. We want them to succeed. That's what we want. And we want to be a partner with them succeeding in the industry, not to be working against them. So
yeah,
I think that answers your question. I probably went a little bit further.
Oh, it's awesome. No, it's so awesome. I love talking to people on this podcast because, like an industry like yours, I would never know anything about that. I run into that a lot too. Like, I was doing a presentation yesterday for a real estate company, like over Zoom, like this, and
Mhm.
one of the real estate ladies that I work with a lot jumped on to the thing. Yeah, her name's Tony, and she's so funny. We've done a lot for her, and she's like, whoa, she is more than just a pretty face. And I'm like, isn't that sad that women that are educated in a skilled labor field are like you, like she felt like she had to preface, I know that was just her like cracking a joke because I know her, but it's so very interesting that if a woman is well versed and understands these industries, it's almost like we have to throw a little like get your
Yeah.
foot in type of like it's just like a weird, I don't even know what the hell you call that, but
We
like a
have to,
simple
we have to work.
introduction to
Yeah.
talking about what she actually knows. How many women do you have that do you have women that go through this course?
I don't, but the person who is currently helping me build all of my courses is a woman. Currently everyone that I work with the exception of my web developers who are phenomenal individuals. Um, Everyone that currently works with me is female. And to me, I think that's a big deal, especially again in a male dominated industry. And just like you said, as women in a skilled labor trade, we have to work 10 times harder to prove we know what we're doing. Um, but it makes us so much stronger and so much more well-rounded in that industry because we've had to work harder.
Do you think, I want to get your honest opinion out of this. Do you
Mhm.
think that the men that walk away from that course learn more from you than they have done in previous courses about this stuff?
I have actually had students tell me that they have taken courses before and that they pretty much slept through the entire course. And I've had them tell me, like, I learned more from you in an hour than I learned in the entire 10 hours I took this before, and things like that. Even with apprenticeship courses, I do think as an instructor, initially, they're very hesitant to listen to me when I'm teaching more technical things. But when I'm teaching OSHA, like when I first tell them, and I always start out my classes with, I have been in this industry for 15 years. I've done everything but design it. And yes, I have installed it. I'm not good at it. That's why I teach it. Because it's the truth. I mean, I used to do inspections and things like that. I've had to dismantle parts of a system with a pair of channel locks while I'm getting soaked in water, things like that. And once they understand that I truly understand this industry and I have been covered in that black water and I've done those things that they've done, even though they're hesitant, as soon as we start getting into those pictures and they start to see that, their tone very much changes with me. And they by the end of it, I have yet to have a student say he didn't learn something in my class. So that's always a good thing.
Kudos to you. And I think that truly, I think the barrier to entry with women, more women being in this home service skilled trade labor industry is due to the fact of, "Oh, I don't know, I'm going to be the only woman in there, or oh, there's not other people before me," which is also why I love to have these conversations because my big passion is, and we were talking about this too, I don't want, my daughter would never look at a situation about being in the home service industry and being like, women can't be in that because she's never experienced that because she's grown up in a construction yard where her mom owned the business.
Yeah.
I'm very proud that she's been able to see that, and those things don't show as a restrictive thing for her. And you have a daughter as well. She's watching you do all of this stuff too. And just them being able to see, like sky's the limit for them. They know no restrictions because they haven't seen any of them.
Exactly.
What
And
does that mean to you within building your business?
and that's one of the reasons why I'm really adamant about having mainly females involved with my business. Not saying I wouldn't hire a guy, but I do like the idea of this being a female built business, and female ran, and especially because we are training the sprinkler fitters and the journeymen and the business owners, the contractors of the future. We're teaching them. And, to in 10 years, be able to say half this industry, or a third of this industry, whatever you want to say, went through my program and learned what they know from a woman is, I think, phenomenal. I mean, I think it's a huge step forward in just progress in general. And like you said, being able to not only teach our daughters, but teach other girls. Somebody had to knock down that door so that the rest of you could walk through. And if we have to be the ones to knock down that door, then so be it. Let's do it. But there should be no restrictions as to what you can do and where you can go, whether it be skilled labor or whatever you want to do. Just because you're a girl doesn't mean you can't work in the construction industry. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And I think twofold to that also is having so you have a son too, and having our sons realize it would never be weird for my son to go to work for a woman because he has watched his mom be the boss of her company. And a vast majority of the people that work for me, well, it's about half and half now, are men, and they're men that are older than I am.
Yeah.
There's an age situation in there, and it's working for a woman thing that even our sons growing up, I don't want them, like my son would never go into a place and think it's weird because a woman owns this home service or skilled trades business, because that's normal to him.
Yeah. Well, like you and I were talking about earlier before we started recording, we grew up in a place where it would have been odd for a woman to be running any business, let alone a construction or home service based business. We didn't grow up with women being entrepreneurs. We got to step outside of that traditional mold of what we grew up with, and we get to teach our kids otherwise. And I do think it's such an important thing for our sons to learn and to respect women in business as well. I've worked with plenty of guys that just because I'm a woman, they've chosen to ignore what I told them. Granted, with time, they learned they didn't kind of have a choice. I get them all to comply eventually, but I think it's a big thing, especially teaching the men of the future, that just because we're female or just because somebody is female or male or whatever, everybody can do it. Everybody can run a business and just be respectful of people, regardless of gender.
Well, and I think too, I know we both come from, the hometown where we grew up at was definitely not a place where a lot of rich people lived at.
No, very down to earth, blue collar people for sure.
For sure. So the fact that we're women that are running very successful home service businesses, skilled trade businesses in a city that we now, I live right outside of Phoenix, you're Corona, California, like these aren't little tiny towns that we live in, there's competition, there's stuff out there. Like we're running our own here. And yet I think a lot of times with women businesses, my accountant that I have for my junk removal business, her and I were talking about this too. And she grew up very much in like a religious community, very much like we did, same religion actually. And she was talking about how whenever she goes to family dinners and stuff, people are like, oh, are you still working? As if they pity her because she's working. She owns her own accounting firm. She's a legit CPA. She's not just like a bookkeeper, like I'm doing QuickBooks or something. She went to school, has master's degree, is a legit CPA. So, and she's like, no, I love working. And she'll start talking about it. And everybody just kind of fizzles around her because
they shut down.
Is doing what she's doing and they don't understand it. Or I know that we talked about too. And I know with my family in the past, people be like, oh, so how's your little business doing? And you're like,
I get the same exact thing.
I did over 7 figures last year with one of them. It's not a little business, but how do you deal with that? And I know when we say we're women working in this industry, they automatically think, oh, well, that's cute, type of situation. How do you deal with kind of the naysayers or the downplayers of all of your hard work?
I think for me, it's just continuing to work hard and being successful and doing things like this and talking to people like you and doing other interviews. And I'm trying to really get into talking at high schools for like career days and things like that. Because I really want to get in at that ground level of letting, not just the guys know you don't need to go to college, you can go to a skilled trade, but letting the girls know, hey, you can do this too, and I get the same exact thing. Oh, how's your little business doing? Or, oh, so you do the bookkeeping. People automatically assume you're just like the secretary or bookkeeper or
Your
whatever.
husband's, it's cute. You work for your husband's business.
I've gotten that one too. And it's so funny, which is why I always tell people I got my husband into this business. He didn't get me into it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is you really just, I think for me, it's just a motivating factor for me to work even harder and get the word out about my business even more. And, eventually one day people are going to realize this isn't a little business. This isn't a little thing. And even if those same people who said, how's your little business doing? And again, you and I talked about this earlier. I talked to my family and they have no idea what I do and they don't have any interest in knowing what I do. They almost pity me because I didn't get to stay home with my kids and whatnot. I had to work. And, but that's the thing is that just working hard and continuing to push forward, it's just a motivating factor for me. Every naysayer is just another like little, match that lights the fire that just keeps me moving forward and keeps me sitting at my desk until midnight, sending emails to people and stuff,
Yes.
So for me,
think,
that's what it is.
Yeah. And it's very interesting. Like when you are doing what is a passion for you, and the passion for me, like junk and shit business is not really a passion for anyone. If you think about it,
When you were a
like
little
that's the
kid,
big
you're not
joke
like,
all the time.
ooh.
They're like, what do you do? Junk and shit. And they're like, it's always a good conversation starter. But like, I could work for 14 hours a day and never feel like I'm working because I
Oh yeah.
love what I'm building here. I love building the teams. I love marketing. I love seeing something happen. That is my passion behind it. It's not necessarily exactly what the work is, but I found a niche where it needed some help. So
Yeah.
again, taking that passion to an opportunity versus getting waiting for an opportunity to come while you sit in a passion somewhere, is so very important. I love so much what you say about like even like getting your husband into the business side of stuff. My husband was in restoration and insurance, and he's got a pedigree before he met me with stuff. But he now is a consultant for the septic company too. And he didn't know, he tells people all the time, he's like, I didn't know shit about septic systems until I met my wife. And then I was like, you do what? Which is always probably the head cock that you get from people too. Like, what do you do?
Well, I always laugh. My husband will call me and ask me code questions. He'd be like, hey, the small room rule, like how exactly does that apply? And it's funny to me, I've had people say, how do you know that? Again, I had to work 10 times harder to prove I knew what I was doing. And for me, getting started in the industry, I studied code. I studied code books, so, but it is funny that, when we were little girls, we weren't sitting there going, I want to do junk and shit and fire sprinklers. That's not even remotely, what we wanted to do. But again, I got into the sprinkler industry by accident. I found something that worked for me. I found people I connected with. I found something I became passionate about when I started teaching. I always wanted to be a teacher. It just didn't necessarily mean teaching fire sprinkler fitters, but I found two things that worked really well together, and that I can help people and I can help an industry grow and maintain for the future. So for me, that's, and I worked for sprinkler contractors for a long time. I just happened to come upon a really phenomenal opportunity about a year ago when I met somebody that just opened that door. And as scary as it was to take that leap and go, okay, I'm going to walk away from a steady job to I'm going to build my own business, was scary as hell. But yeah. I'm so happy right now that I did it. Like I feel like I don't ever work. Even if I sit at my computer from 9:00 in the morning till 11:00 at night, I don't feel like I work because I'm doing what I love and I'm helping the people I want to help. So
for sure. And now looking back at this, now knowing what you know and knowing how much you love this, like how much of a false perception was that steady job to you, now knowing what you know about being your own boss?
Oh, it was absolutely like, I wish I would have done this 5 years ago. I, I mean,
So many people say that.
I am grateful for the experiences that I had and the knowledge that I gained working for all the places that I did. And I've worked with some phenomenal people and people who taught me so much. But I wish that instead of working 16-hour days for a contractor and helping build their business, I would have been doing it for myself 5 years ago. So, and that's something I told my husband, I can never go back to work for somebody else and build their business ever again. I just want to build my own, and
Yeah.
I want to build something that's sustainable, that can employ multiple people. And again, teaching apprenticeship, we're providing that employment opportunity for other people. We're making sure that these people can stay employed. We're making sure that an industry can stay sustainable in the future as well. So, but
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So couple questions about this. So what do you find difficult about trying to do all the things? We don't say balance in Ladies Kicking Ass because that is a big effing lie. And then I think a lot of women try to sustain this bullshit balance, quote unquote, thing that they're supposed to have. This is something like I talk to my girlfriends all the time and I'm like, you never hear a man being like, oh my God, I have to go home and I have to do the dishes and I have this and, I got to do spelling homework and I got to do this. Are they even thinking about any of that shit? I have no idea, but I know that I am all the time. How do you juggle all of those things and how do you stay present with work when you're working, and how do you stay present at home when you're not working?
I am a big schedule person. I set deadlines for myself and I plan things out. In the middle of the day, I may be like, you know what? I feel like making bread today. I will get up from my computer and I will go make bread. I don't restrict myself to, I have to work from 8 to 5 today. I've really had to retrain myself to not think in clocks, in time clocks, basically. I'll have days where I can sit at my computer for 14 hours and get 2 classes written and respond to all the emails and set up all these accounts and do all these things. And then I have days where I sit down at my computer and nothing happens. And I'm like, you know what? Today's a day where I just need to walk away,
Yep.
And it took me a long time to be able to say, it's okay if I don't work on a Wednesday. It's okay if I don't sit at my computer for 8 hours today. It's okay if I go walk my dogs in the middle of the day or bake bread or do whatever I want to do. I'm super grateful that my son is here and my son helps out around the house a lot. I've taught, growing up, we were taught girls do the dishes and girls do this and this and this.
Oh, yeah.
I've taught my son from a very young age, you do your own laundry, you help with the dishes, anything your sister does, you're doing too. It was not very one-sided with my kids. But I do think with my husband being in Guam currently working, it does afford me a lot more time to just kind of sit here. I don't have to worry about entertaining him other than when he FaceTimes me. So that's kind of been a little bit helpful for me to focus on building the business right now, but definitely just allowing myself that opportunity to, don't be restricted by that time clock. Work when you can be productive. And when you feel like you need to go do something else, go do it, because the more you sit and worry about it, the less productive you're going to be. And if you can't focus on that one thing, go do what you're trying to focus on.
Yeah, that's so good. I was just having a conversation with my assistant, Sophie, about that too. And I was like, there's so many times that people, like if you start working at a young age per hour, I make this per hour, I do this, your productivity is truly not based upon what you're doing, but how many hours you put in.
Yeah.
So you are trading time for money. And the optimal goal for anyone to get is to trade knowledge for money. because I can get more done in 2 hours sitting in my home desk, like just shut the door, turn on a podcast and just grind some shit out versus me coming into the office here. Albeit I love to be in here to be support for my team. But if I have to like just plan on not having stuff to do that day. Like my big goal this year is to work myself out of a job at my pumping company.
I like it. I like that.
And everybody kind of looks at me funny when we were setting our goals for the year. That was my first goal. I'm working myself out of a job. And they all looked at me like, what? But my whole point of that being is if I don't have day-to-day tasks and jobs, I'm working on my business and not in my business. I'm not trading time for money anymore. I mean, now I feel like I'm getting like barrage, just like time, knowledge, and it's still coming into a money fund.
Right.
But how can I pay somebody per hour for the things I have taught them how to do so I can use my knowledge to enrich them and build this team, build this business, do these things? And I think that should be a goal for a lot of us, especially if you're a working mama and you've got kids at home and soccer practice. And of course, they can't play on the same night. So we're at the soccer field 6 days a week, and you're like trying to do all the things. Stop and unplug at 4 o'clock so your kid isn't running to the soccer field like a crazy maniac every time. You don't have to stay there till 5 o'clock. You don't have to work from 8 to 5 anymore. Those hours are for you to decide what to do with. And the second that you can flip that over, which I still have a problem with that myself some days, it's amazing what happens to the stress level that's happening inside of your head.
Well, and it's funny. It's when you become task oriented versus time oriented, it changes so much. Because again, like for me, I have checklists, I have deadlines. I sit down, I'm like, okay, I have to get this done today. And if I'm still focused, I'm going to start working on all this other stuff too. But if I only get this done today, I'm good.
Yep.
And just, it's really difficult. And again, I've been working since I was 14 years old. I've been punching a time clock and everything was time, money, time, money, time, money. And going from that to, I just need to get this done. And I mean, I worked jobs where I worked 16 hours a day because I was a salaried employee, and kill yourself for somebody else's business. And getting away from that time idea is so difficult. But once you do, I really think it's very freeing and so much more productive,
100%. 100%. And asking for help where you need some damn help,
like we all struggle with that.
Especially us. I think that whole stubbornness was just that's a hereditary thing on many sides, but
I think you're right.
And where we grew up at too, like that was just a big thing too. But it's just like, ask for some help. One of the best things, like I tell my aunts and my cousin this all the time, and they look at me like I have 3 heads, but I'm like, the best expense, my favorite bill to pay all week is my house cleaner that comes on Fridays. Oh. And they look at me and they're like, you have a housekeeper? Like, how dare you not take care of your own stuff? They don't say it out loud, but that's the look that it feels like from some of my friends and people that are at home that don't understand that, Yeah. But I'm like, I cannot possibly keep a house and run 3 businesses and have 5 children and a husband, like you say, to spend time with or whatever, and do this at the level of satisfaction I need it to be. And I don't want it to be dirty during the weekend when I have some time off, because then that's all I'm going to do. So it's set up every Friday. I come home and my house is beautifully clean. It's those little things that, like, for years I was like, nope, I can do it all. Nope, I can do it all. It's that, like, hiring your first employee. Stop wearing all the hats. Being busy is not a badge of honor. Like, find a way to get some help from somebody.
That is definitely an area I am currently struggling in, because my business right now is pretty much just me, is getting to that point of, it's not going to take me more time to teach somebody else how to do this, just teach somebody else how to do certain things. So I've gotten into this habit where I have a little notepad that I sit here, and when I do things throughout the day, I'm like, is this something I could teach someone else to do, and I could hand off and trust them to do it? And for me, trusting someone to do it is such a big thing, but I'm slowly building this list And especially when it's a new business and you really don't know what the position is you're looking for someone for, I'm slowly building this list, which will eventually morph into some type of a job description of, this is what I need somebody to help me with. These are the things that, what is it saying? Only do what only you can do.
Yeah.
I have to learn to only do what only I can do and let somebody else help me. I am finally getting to that point of, I think it is time to hire somebody new to help me out. But my office is strictly in my house at the moment, which is why I said I can go bake bread in the middle of the day. But that I think also presents another interesting challenge in the fact that this is where I work, is in my office in my home. But I am lucky that I do have a separate room, and I close that door at a certain time, not the same time every day, but when I am done with my tasks and I close that door, I'm done working for the day. But, and I think that's an important thing, is to be able to close that door and say, okay, no more, not today. I have a terrible tendency to work all weekend too. And again, especially my kids are adults, my husband's not here. All I've got is my dogs.
Yeah.
But I do think I'm getting better at that, closing that door and not working constantly.
Well, that's a good thing, because a big part of our community too is like, at some point you have to stop and take some time for yourself too.
Yeah.
So what are the things, albeit maybe tiny as it can be? I know starting a new business, shit, I'm 5 years in and I still have a hard time with this. It never gets, you get more people, you got more people to train, you got more business coming in. It's a beautiful problem to have.
Exactly.
But when you make that time for yourself, what is it that you enjoy doing for you?
For me, definitely, I got an opportunity last October to go spend some time with my husband in Guam and go paddle boarding and do things that I would absolutely love to go back and do again. Usually when my husband does come home, we go spend some time in Mexico with his family. Hiking, I like hiking and taking my dogs for walks and things like that. And I don't have any particular hobbies. I try to make a couple of trips a year up to see my best friend in Idaho. And that's a good break for me. I don't work when I'm there. She won't let me work when I'm there. She refuses to give me the Wi-Fi password sometimes, so I won't work. That's good. I love her for that, because she knows I need a break sometimes. But yeah, I mean, they're just little things like that, just being able to walk away on occasion and take the dogs for a walk and, go have lunch with my daughter or something like that, I think it's progress.
For sure. And the fact that you're like, if I want to go bake bread, I go bake some bread,
Yeah.
That's massive, that a lot of us have a problem with. I'm like, I have 5 piles of laundry that are probably going to be there for 2 more days.
See, you need a laundry service now too.
Oh, if I didn't have so many children, I would invest in that too. But that now I'm just trading my knowledge for laundry service and cleaning service. So one of my big questions, that this has been such an awesome interview, by the way. Thank you so much for this. I can't wait for other people to hear this. I know that you were nervous about this. I knew it was going to be great. I knew it. But like, community means so much to a lot of us. And I think that you hear women talk about like, in my community, in this, where we grew up at, knowing you the way that I do, our community was definitely like, you knew everybody in your community. Yeah. Like I tell people, I'm like, had a whole, like, I knew everybody in my high school. Like you knew everybody's name. Like we grew up in this tiny spot. So having like the small town background, like, do you find yourself like sometimes yearning to have that kind of community again where you are now?
I don't really. I'm not going to say I'm an antisocial person, but I am a person that keeps a very, very small, tight-knit community of friends and acquaintances. I spent so many years just being involved with just my kids and my husband and just going to work and coming home and whatnot, that I didn't build this big community of friends in the area that I live. And one of the things I actually liked, I lived really close to Los Angeles for about 15 years. one of the things I really liked about that was the anonymity involved with such a big city, because we grew up in a place where, I mean, I haven't lived there in 23 years and people still seem to know my business. And it's like, how? I don't talk to anyone. But I think for me, that was one thing that when I left Star Valley, I was glad to be anonymous in the sea of people, but I did miss that, that sense of community, of being able to go knock on your neighbor's door, or even the strangest thing, you remember at Christmas time when people would walk around and bring cookies and cake and or breads and things like that. I look at my neighbors here, like I made pickles the other day and I was like, oh, I should go give some to the neighbors. And I'm like, we don't do that here. That's kind of weird, but, for small little things like that. Yeah, I think so. But I do think that I am a person that keeps this very small, tight knit community of people. My best friend, we've been friends since we went to preschool together. I mean, it's a long time. I have a few friends here that I'll go hang out with on occasion, and people that I confide in and that I turn to for advice and things like that. I have a really good friend in the Bay Area that I'm able to communicate with, and I get that sense of community from them, even though they may be far away. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, for sure. And I was hoping you would say something about that, because for me too, like when I moved to Phoenix, I had a brand new baby. I didn't have a job at the time. We were coming down here to start a business. It was a new city, a new house. All the traumatic things that they say are like life's biggest events happened like all at one time, except for a death, which sometimes when all that stuff is happening, you feel like you're dying as a person inside because you don't know who this person is you're supposed to become now. Right. So community, I learned to love the anonymity of where I live now. Yeah. Even people that in like the community, Gilbert's probably like, I don't know, 100,000 people, something like that. I'm sure it's huge now. It's probably way bigger than that now. I don't know. There's so many people moving here all the time.
From a place where there's only like 4,000 people in the entire valley, you're like,
it seems huge.
Yeah.
So like I can go to the same Target right behind my house, and like I never even run into my neighbors there.
I love that.
I love it too. And people are like, that is so, like, I just wish I lived next to my family. And I'm like, unless you live next to your family for a long time. And granted, we have our own cluster F of a family situation on our hands. So, we might be a little more jaded than something like that. But it's a matter of like, for me, I have an amazing community of not only women, but also men that I have built and designed around the people that are in my life, the people that are the family that me and my kids associate with, or the people that have chosen to be in our lives and give graciously to enhancing our lives versus it being a relationship of because we're family, we have to be nice to this crazy person,
I think that's such a big thing, is being able to build the family in quotations that you want, and those people who add to your life and add to your children's lives and don't take away, and just because, the whole saying, blood is thicker than water, not necessarily true. I think that, we get to cultivate our own families, and we get to cultivate those people we choose to be around. I have friends here that, would drop anything to come and help me. I have a great friend that I remember getting a flat tire 4 times in 1 week, and I could call him and he'd be right there patching my tire off the side of the highway. Those are people that normally you wouldn't look at and go, I can rely on those people. It's sometimes family is the least reliable. The ones you're blood related to are the least reliable. So I think that that's a huge thing, is building that family that you want. And that doesn't always have to be related.
I think that is a beautiful sense of community too, especially coming from a place where we grew up at, where like the community was your blood family, really.
Oh, it was. We were related to pretty much everyone. what was the joke of where we grew up at? You had to be careful who you dated in high school. You had to make sure they weren't like a distant second cousin or something like that, because it was such a small community,
Yeah.
and it's
So
just crazy.
I love to ask that question at the end of podcasts because Ladies Kicking Ass is all about building a community of women that you have common interests with. And I always wanted to have a community of women that could coach me, mentor me, help me. Like, I just came into this business. I don't know how to set up my QuickBooks. I don't know how to build a website. I don't know how to do this. Where can I go for a resource so that I can get help with this without just cold calling a bunch of businesses and trying to figure out which one I'm going to get help with and which one I'm not. So that was the whole purpose behind me building the community online, trying to bring it local now that COVID's over and we can actually do shit again.
Yeah.
And even setting up different branches of it all over the place. You could very easily have a group of women that are ladies kicking ass in California, that it's a meeting structure and a community that is being built with women that you can have conversations with about your day-to-day work that you do. That, to be real honest with you, I might not have a lot in common with somebody that's not in a home service industry, because the things that I deal with on a daily basis might not be like what a child care provider is dealing with on a daily basis. So having those women that I can trust and reach out to, even having men be involved in this. The last episode had my business coach, Jeff Heggie, in it, which was an incredible conversation. He's just totally flipped my mind about what I'm capable of doing inside of my business. So I want to thank you for being part of our community. And there are so many amazing women just like you that have built businesses that can give so many resources, just like you talking about stopping during your day. They might not have anything in common with fire sprinkler licensure or any of that stuff, but we're all really doing kind of the same thing. And it's providing a service. And how are we doing that to the best of our ability as women? And it's so cool to see what everybody's, some women that I asked that question to is like, community is everything. I raised my kids with one community, and then I have a community for church, and it's interesting because I'm like you, I'm kind of a little introverted when it comes to like, I don't want to just go out and make a whole ton of girlfriends, but I am very interested in people's businesses and what makes them tick type of thing. So I have enough on my plate right now that I don't need sometimes you get those girlfriends that are like, we haven't talked in 2 weeks. Are you mad at me today? That's always been like my fear of like making female friends. And I think just because we grew up with so many men in our lives, and just like the girls where we grew up with just weren't like that, it's so interesting to be able to find this community of women. I've found incredible women within this that they're just like us. They're just like me, and we have so much in common and so much to give. People in this industry just want to see other people do good things. So you've been so insightful and helpful with that today.
Thank you. It was really fun. And it's, just to kind of add to that, I think for me, like, I call my best friend every single day, especially when I'm driving. And I call her because she knows me so well. She'll tell me if I'm being crazy. She'll tell me if my ideas are good. She'll tell me if they're not. And she's the one person that I know won't pull any punches with me. And she's all about building up. And I think that's the biggest thing, especially as women in business, is we are not in competition with each other. We really aren't. And you and I talked a lot about the whole competition mindset earlier. The other day I was looking for somebody to print t-shirts. I would love to find a woman who owns a business doing that and help support her by giving her my business. And I think like the community that you've created online is a great place to do that. And, just simply posting, hey, does anybody print t-shirts or whatever, I think is a great way.
Someone for you.
Yes. Send it, please. I need shirts made. Absolutely.
Yvonne is awesome.
Cool. So, but I mean, see little things like that, like just,
and they're from Cheyenne.
Yeah. And that's the thing it's just amazing to find out that there are so many people out there that are like-minded in the aspect of, yes, we are women and we have families and we're supposed to do all these things, but we can also build these businesses and be amazing business owners and help build a better future for these children that we raise, as well. So, but thank you so much for having me on. It's been really great. It's been so nice to catch up with my favorite cousin. I haven't seen you in a long time. So that's been great.
Oh, just so dumb. So dumb. So we made a great family reconnect here today. We did all that good stuff on top of giving lots of good information. So if someone wants to learn more about your business, where is the best place to find you online?
They can go to our website, which is just acteducate.com. You can email us at info@acteducate.com. We're all about answering questions about the fitter certification requirements in California. Safety is kind of one of my specialties. I teach OSHA all over the US, anywhere. So, I come teach an OSHA class in Arizona, wherever it's needed. I specifically do OSHA for construction. So, anything that you need, you can just go to our website or info@acteducate.com.
Awesome. And I will put all of those links in the show notes too. But thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. I hope you loved it. Hey, if you got a lot out of today's show and you think a friend of yours may love it too, please do me a really quick favor. Screenshot the episode, post it, tag us at Ladies Kickin' Ass, or share the link to the episode. I'm here to help and support as many ladies as I can, and your generosity in sharing the show means the world to me. Don't forget, hit subscribe to be notified of all newly released episodes, and leaving the show a 5-star review is the ultimate expression of love for our team. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the podcast, I would so love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM on Instagram or Facebook and we'll chat further. Thank you for being part of our tribe, and until next time, go kick some ass, lady.